Good morning, everyone. Welcome into First Take on this Feel Good Friday. Thank you for being with us. Obviously, Stephen A., an incredible game last night in L.A. You were in the building, and we'll get to what that means for the Lakers and Knicks in just a moment. But, S.A., there was a moment in the game that we want to address.
That was LeBron James coming up to me, unexpectedly, I might add, to confront me about making sure that I mind what I say about his son. Can't repeat the words because they ain't suited for FCC airwaves. That's what he was doing. I thought long and hard about this over the last few hours because I had no intentions, Molly, of talking about this at all.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it was a one-on-one, I wouldn't say a conversation, but it was a one-on-one confrontation. But then I wake up and everybody from ESPN and my agent and everybody else were sending me that this thing had gone viral. And so ultimately it was unavoidable, and that is why I have to discuss it now. That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent. That was a father. And I can't sit here and be angry or feel slighted by LeBron James in any way in that regard. By all accounts, he's obviously a wonderful family man and a wonderful father who cares very, very deeply about his son. And based on some of the comments that he had heard, or shall I say, I think he thought he heard, he clearly took exception to some of the things that he heard me say, and he confronted me about it. For the record, his agent and friend, Rich Paul, has my number. Maverick Carter, who works under him, has my number. LeBron James knows how to get in contact with me if he wanted to. He never called, because had he called and wanted to talk to me, I would have accepted that call. Had he wanted to see me, I would have flown out and I would have seen him and I would have had a conversation man to man. But that is not what he elected to do. Instead, he elected to confront me while I was sitting courtside. Ari Emanuel, the head of William Morris Endeavor, one of the agencies that represents me, along with Larry David, was sitting courtside. I was with them for the game. And he walked right up to me and he said what he had to say. And apparently he feels like I was slighting his son. Now let me tell you what I feel. What I would have said if we were in a different environment, because I was not going to engage in a confrontation at that particular moment in that setting. But if we had had that conversation, I would have said to LeBron James, I never would speak negatively about your son. I was talking about you, meaning you, LeBron James. I have nothing but the best wishes for Bronny James. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope that he flourishes into an NBA star. Usually in other sports, we see all-stars, and on occasion, we'll see their children become stars as well. That doesn't really happen with the NBA. I sincerely hope he's the exception. By all accounts, he's a wonderful kid. And I don't know anybody who roots against him, and it certainly isn't me. But in the same breath, at the time that we were talking about him, he was percolating to such a degree that the Bronny James stories had gone viral. And so we had to talk about it. And when I said the things that I said, I wasn't talking about Bronny James because my attitude is he's a rookie. It's going to take some time for him to get himself together. He'll be just fine, especially with J.J. Redick and the staff coaching him. I was talking about the position that he was put in by his dad, because LeBron James has been on the record, and he has said, and I'll read the quote here. There was a quote that he gave in February of 2024. The work and results will ultimately do talking, no matter what the size. If y'all don't know, he doesn't care what mock drafts say. He just works, earned, not given, et cetera, et cetera. But he also had said that his son could play on the Lakers right now, and he was better than half the dudes in the NBA. In the aftermath of all of that, he instructed everybody before the draft that y'all want me, draft Bronny. Wherever Bronny is at, that's where I'll be. I'll do whatever it takes to play with my son for a year. It's not about the money at that point. My point months ago was that because of who you are, one of the top 2 players in the history of basketball, in my estimation, there's an immense amount of pressure that comes with that for his son. And when he talked like that and what have you, anything that goes awry as it pertains to his son, there's going to be a microscopic eye, even more intensified, on Bronny James because of his dad and what his dad had said. And that's when I was talking about, come on, man, this is the situation that you're putting him in. That's where I was coming from. I could be a bit more outspoken about it, but to be quite honest with you, to be in that moment, to have LeBron look at me the way that he did, for me to be a father of 2 daughters, for me to know what fathers, how much love fathers have for their children, and to hear what he had to say, it was all about his son. It was almost as if he was saying, you know, you and I, because he and I don't necessarily vibe, it's high and by, we keep it moving. Neither of us lose sleep over it, and it's been that way for years. But it was like he was saying, keep that between me and you. Almost as if he was thinking that anything that I said about Bronny was a result of him. And in that situation, again, I wasn't talking about Bronny. I was really, really talking about him because of the position that Bronny was in. But I really understood where he was coming from. He was very, very upset. I could tell. He could have called me. I'd have came to see him. I'd have had a conversation with him. He could have been just as upset face-to-face, man-to-man, as opposed to being courtside at the game. I had no idea that everybody saw it until I woke up this morning. But it is what it is. In the end, like I said, you know, I as a father, I get it. I'm not offended. I'm not insulted. I don't have any animosity or animus towards LeBron James for this. Nothing like that. I don't think he cares, but neither do I. I'm just stating fact. None of that exists. If I was in his position, I can't definitively say I would not have done the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming him one bit. I get it. I understand it. And there's a part of me that aches and hurts because of it. But unlike a whole bunch of people with their podcast and beyond that talk about the NBA, I covered the NBA. And it's my job to talk about the subjects and the subject matters that matter. I work for ESPN. I'm here. We have the #1 morning show for the last 13 years and counting. God has blessed us with that. There's a lot that's going on, and there's a lot of stories that are there to be told. And I just feel it's necessary to remind people, Molly, I was raised as a journalist. Let's be very, very clear about what that means. I'm not one of those that get into people's private affairs. But what you do on a public platform for public consumption, that's what I cover. That's what I do for a living. And if you're in the NBA, that applies to you. I don't want enemies. I live a very good life. I like to make people laugh and smile and have a good time and all of that other stuff. But I also get paid to call it like I see it. And what I said at the time, I stand by what I said. It wasn't even any reporting. The facts were out there. And what I was saying about LeBron is fact-based because of what he said and the things that he said leading up to his son getting drafted and ultimately being in the NBA on the same team as him, as opposed to being a Boston Celtic or a Golden State Warrior. There is no way around that. And when you are born and raised as a journalist, not born and raised, but when you're raised as a journalist professionally, you don't want enemies, but you ain't paid to make friends. You got to call it like you see it. And that's what I did. So again, in closing, I just want to say, I'm not upset. I don't care. I wish that it wasn't in that kind of atmosphere. I wish it was in a private setting.